So my name is Tony Gonzalez, and we are here talking to Paul Gilbert because next April 7, you will release a new CD called the Dio Album. But my first question, Paul, is how are you? Because some days ago you broke your hips or something. What happened?
I broke my hip. I slipped on the ice, and so I went to the hospital. They put in a new titanium hip, and that was about 10 days ago. And now I'm on my feet and exercising a lot, and getting back to get my strength back.
Now you are a cyborg, like a robot, because the titanium.
Exactly. I'm more metal.
More metal. Yes. And my second question is why Dio?
Oh man, well, of course I'm a guitar player, but as a music fan, I've always loved singers. I've always been into bands that have singers, and I started to try to play vocal melodies on my guitar, and I thought I'm going to make a list of singers that I want to learn from, that I want to copy and try to study from. And I just thought, okay, who am I going to put? Number one, Ronnie James Dio. You know, he was the first written name that I wrote down. And actually, the last few years I've already been working on a lot of his melodies. When I teach my students, one of my favorite melodies is "Long Live Rock and Roll," because it's, it seems simple. It's like three notes, maybe a little more than three, but to play that with expression and emotion and soul, it's really challenging to do that on guitar. So I was working on just that little bit a lot, and I got better and better at it, and I started to realize I think I might be able to do it.
But for several years, you have been working in a guitar playing style. When you try to repeat, I will say, impersonate the vocal lines in your own music. Is this record an example of a higher level in your personal guitar skill?
It's really different than like kind of scaly playing, and I like to have that. It's almost like different voices, because for example, on the Dio album, I'm playing Ronnie James Dio's vocal lines, but I'm also playing the guitar solo. Mm-hmm. So when I do the guitar solo, I want to have something that sounds different. And so if I'm doing like a Vivian Campbell ripping guitar solo, that's going to be one kind of style. And then when I play the Ronnie parts, that's going to be different. So I like them both, but they're very different. And sometimes the way that people learn guitar is like, okay, I got to learn my major scales and all stuff. I worry about that a little bit because you can get stuck in scales, and to me, to learn a vocal line really frees you up, and it's a different approach, a different technique.
So you face only one voice, but you face at least three guitar players: Richie Blackmore, Tony Iommi, and Vivian Campbell. So speaking about the guitar solos that you told me, not all the time you play the solos of the original. Did you make your own solos, or there are part the originals and part your own solos? How did you work that?
Kind of a mix of both. I mean, I grew up listening to those songs. So if there was a part of the guitar solo that had like a melodic structure to it, I would usually try to follow that. But if there's a part where they're going crazy, then I might go crazy my own way. So and also it made me realize that Tony Iommi especially, I probably figured out his solos the earliest in my own journey. So like when I was maybe 12, or 11, that I was working on like Sweet Leaf, and that even that little lick is so important to the patterns that I play if I'm going to play the faster things. Whereas like the Blackmore playing took me a much longer time. He had more like blues kind of stuff, and that that actually was harder for me. That was more like when I was maybe 17 or 18. I started working on more learning how to play lazy or stuff from Machine Head record. And then Vivian Campbell, he has some stuff that I can't even do. Like he has this one, it's kind of like a Gary Moore lick. And both Vivian Campbell and Gary Moore, if they can do this lick, and it's so fast, and I can get the notes, but I have to do it my own way because I can't play it like they do. I don't know. It's nice to to have those technical challenges, and sometimes you just have to go like, okay, that's impossible for me. Maybe there's another way to do it.
According to your own maybe a style or principle, and for Dio fans, it will be easy to recognize the vocal lines. Let me confess you that the first track, Neon Nights, I see myself singing the first line, oh no, here it's come. When you start, oh no, here it's come again. So the guitar sounds like the voice. So, and tell me, do you respect the music of all the vocal lines?
I really listen to them closely to try to follow it. And one of the things that was so important was to use pinch harmonics with the pick, because you can change the character of the note. And when a singer sings, they use different vowel sounds. So they might go O, or they go E, and they go ooh, ah, there's different, and you can kind of get that, with you can shape that with the pick. And that's to try to follow what a vocalist does, that was so important. And so I would just sit there and go, to try to find the right spot to do that.
You select songs from Rainbow, Black Sabbath, and Dio, the band. And did you select the song by personal taste?
Well, one part personal taste, but also, there were some things that I was a little scared of. Like, for example, The Gates of Babylon. Mm-hmm. I thought about doing that one. And the solo in that song is so, like the chord changes are so crazy that I just thought, maybe I'll try that on the Dio album Volume 2 or something, because now that's a little, I don't think I can. I'm going to be overwhelmed by all those chord changes. And actually, even Stand Up and Shout, which I did. At first, I thought I wasn't going to do it, and actually, my drummer Bill. Because I sent him the list, and he's like, "Where's Stand Up and Shout? You got to do that one." And I was like, "I don't know, that one. It's really fast. That's kind of hard." He's like, "No, you got to do it. That's like one of the most important ones." And so, I'm glad he encouraged me to do it, because that one turned out pretty good.
And but to me, it was really exciting now that you told me that you start with thinking of Kill the King. No, it was Kill the King. Yes, was exciting, because you use the sound of the audience in Kill the King. And I don't know, maybe you remember, because you know a lot about music, that Kill the King was first recording alive on a stage before Long Live Rock and Roll. So this is the reason why you did that?
Well, I don't know the history of it so much, but like the way I knew about the song was when I was about 15, I joined a band, cover band, and it was the first band I ever joined that had a keyboard player. So the keyboard player had a B3 organ, and when we did Kill the King, we wanted to do the live version, which was on the on stage record. And I'd never heard the song, but from joining that band, I learned it. I loved playing it with that band, and so I really wanted to make it sound like the live version. That's my favorite version. And I'm also proud because like all the keyboard parts in there are my guitar. I used a Leslie pedal and figured out a way to almost used like a Billy Gibbons technique to get the trills. And I think I could make my guitar sound a lot like a keyboard.
Another curiosity is that in Holy Diver, you use the sound of two guitars to follow the vocal lines. How did work the guitars in that song?
Well, in Holy Diver, the melody is so strong, so you just try to stay on the melody, and it's also nice because you get the harmonies as well. I think one of the sometimes I would get lucky, because if you go on YouTube you can find sometimes you can find the isolated vocal track. And I think that one they had it, so I could pull that off YouTube and then slow it down with my computer and really listen to the details. And it was so interesting because, of course, you know, Ronnie James Dio is a very melodic singer, a very accurate singer, but there's a little bit of like almost like talking, you know, like almost, I don't know, 3% of like Bob Dylan kind of where it's more of a talking thing that gives it a little more emotion, and that's, you know, it's like the little things in between the notes, and it's almost impossible to hear those just if the song's just going by at full speed with all the instruments. But I could hear it when I slowed it down and I just isolated the vocal, and I was like, wow, I never knew that note was there. And I really tried to copy that with guitar. And so that's sort of the extra little ingredient is following those things that, in a way, it's almost like breaking the rule. Like, you know, you couldn't do it on a piano because that note's not there on a piano, you know. But with guitar, you can bend it or you can slide it, and you can kind of get it. Because... I don't think I doubled it, you know, because I mean, basically, I'm trying to copy Ronnie, so I don't think he doubled it either. So I just did, you know, one melody, one harmony, and that's good.
Taking account this song were playing by different guitar players, did you use a different gear? What gear did you use for this?
Yeah. Well, I recorded the album in my home studio, so I've got my whole guitar collection there and my pedal collection and lots of amps. So I think I probably used more gear than I needed to.
Yes.
But to me, that was just fun. You know, every time a new song would come in, I'd look at the engineer and go, okay, wait a minute, let me try this, and I just, you know, pull another guitar out. So I was sort of like, you know, a boy in a toy store when it came to that. And I think one of the main things I did, I had started collecting a lot of the Ibanez stuff from the late 70s and the early 80s. And that era of instruments, they're not really that expensive, but they're really good. Made in Japan and you know, great guitars. So there was one in particular, the Ibanez Roadstar, which is almost like a Strat. It's got 21 frets. And the nice thing about that is because there's less frets, there's more access to the pick harmonics. So all that stuff I was talking about, where you try to get the vowel sound, you can reach that a little bit easier on a guitar that's got not so many frets. So I use the Ibanez Roadstar a lot, like from the early 80s.
You told me that you choose the song by a personal taste, but did you pay attention who wrote and co-wrote the song? I asking you because maybe Richie Blackmore wants your money.
Oh, like I think mainly I wanted to have a balance, like kind of equal Black Sabbath, equal Rainbow, equal Dio. I think one of the things that I noticed between those three bands was the bass playing. You know, because like for example, the bass line in "Man on the Silver Mountain" is really, I was so surprised because almost like a disco bass line. It's like, and it's a great. I'm so glad I learned that because I've used that all over the place now. It's such a useful little bass riff. Whereas like with Geezer Butler from Black Sabbath, like his bass lines were always an octave higher than I expected. You know, like or was it Heaven and Hell, this song in the key of E, and he hardly ever hits the low E. He's always on like the middle E, and you'd think like, oh, it's heavy, it's got to be the low one. He doesn't hit the low one. He hits the middle one. And so that was really surprising to me that he made that choice, but it sounds great. And then, of course, Jimmy Bain and Dio, those parts like Stand Up and Shout, that was just physically demanding because it's so fast and, you know, it keeps going the whole time. So my arm was like, oh, you know, it felt like an athlete trying to play that song.
But did you play the song thinking of bringing on tour, alive, doing in a show, or not? It's just for a record.
Not really. I mean, if I did, I would definitely need to hire a rhythm guitar player because that's sometimes you can arrange a song where you can kind of go back and forth, like put a little rhythm and then jump to the vocal and jump back and forth. That can work for some arrangements. But I think for like hard rock and heavy metal, it's nice to have just that wall of rhythm guitar. And I really enjoyed doing that. That was, like the hair would stand up on my arms every time I was playing one of those riffs and just going, oh, this is such a good riff. Man, I love playing those rhythm parts.
Who record the CD with you? You record all the guitar and bass player, and who is the drummer? No keyboard.
Oh, the drummer. Yeah, the drummer's Bill. His name is Bill Ray. I've done some recording and touring with him before, and basically, like he lives in Seattle, so I'd record just the rhythm guitar parts to a click track and bass, and then send that to him, and he would play the drums. And he'd send that back down, and then I'd overdub the vocal and the solo part. But he did great. He grew up with that music too, so I think a lot of it he was kind of already in his head.
Yes, he did great. Yes, and now 2 days ago I received a very good news, and I need to talk to you about it. I received the news from Nick DeVirgilio, because he will be the new drummer in Mr. Big. And the most important is that you are in the band too. But now, with the problem with your hips, what is going to happen?
Oh, well, of course, we have our big finish tour coming up, starting in the summer. And it's starting off in Japan and Southeast Asia. And then after that, I think we have some other stuff scheduled, so we're going to take a break and then restart it in 2024 and play everywhere else we can.
Are you ready to face the tour, the big finish? Are you ready in terms of health, thinking about your hips that is broken?
Oh, yeah.
No, this is the problem, not the skill, it's the health.
Well, I'm glad I have the time, but it's been about 10 days, and I'm up and walking around, and I had a physical therapist come over yesterday, and because even before the tour, I actually have a gig at Sweetwater at the end of April. And so I asked my physical therapist, what do you think? Because that's about 7 weeks from now. And I said, in 7 weeks, do you think I can get on a plane and fly? She said, oh, yeah, no problem.
No problem?
So, yeah.
Good.
It's metal.
It's metal, but you are a human being, so...
Yeah.
Yes. And tell me, are you already rehearsing or thinking or try to remember the songs?
Oh, well, I mean, already... when we got Nick involved, and I had already jammed with Nick, so I really felt that he was going to do great. But Eric and Billy hadn't heard him, so what I did is I played like some of the songs from Lean Into It, and I re-recorded it in my studio. Just played guitar and bass, and I sent it to Nick, and I said, Nick, play drums on this, and also sing the lead vocal. and then. And so he did that. He made a video, and he sent the video to Pat and Eric, and both of them were like, "This is amazing!" Like it's so that's kind of was the true test. Is not only can do the drums, but because that's what Pat would do a lot of times. Like he would double Eric's part. So that those two elements are really important, and Nick got it perfect.
Yes, but if you listen the Nick DeVirgilio music in the last 10, 15, or maybe 20 years, he has working really hard to improve his vocal style. But tell me, Paul, it will be really the big finish?
Oh, I think so. I think to me it makes sense. I think we all have different things we're doing, but I think we want to give a really joyous, respectful, really put our hearts into it one last time, do it right, and to me it makes sense.
So this is basically our questions. If you want to say anything else, this is your moment. Please.
Oh my goodness! Well, thanks everybody for listening to the Dio album. I hope you're also excited about the Mr. Big Finish tour. And if you want to learn some guitar, come to my online school, and there's over 13,000 video lessons that I've done for my students already. And I'm taking about a week off from my hip, but then after that, I'll be back at my school teaching there as well.
So please, I hope you get better very soon. Please take care of yourself. If you don't take care of you, nobody will do it for you.
Exactly. Well, actually, that's the one thing about this is that I've never been a person who exercises a lot. I'm a pretty skinny person, but after this injury, it made me realize I really have to start exercising. So I think when you see me out on that tour, you're going to see a new Paul Gilbert. I'm going to be a little bit more fit.
And a stronger Paul Gilbert. Yes, a metal. Thank you very much, Paul. Thank you very much. Yes.
Thank you. I'll see you later.
Yes, as usual, I enjoy a lot this conversation.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.